because I had nothing to do and I wanted to do this. That's the only reason. Let's do it. So, yeah, of course, we're obviously already a month into 2022, but we still haven't got any new MCU projects because the first one is set to premiere on March 30th, so we have 2 months. So I can do some other content from the MCU in the meanwhile, while we get up to 30th of March. So what other perfect thing to do than just to rank the 2021 projects, because they were going from E to like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So, well, yeah, we're doing it. If you want to see my ranking for yourself, you can see my Phase 4 and all the other phases rankings in my Letterboxd page. I have a lot of lists concerning Marvel. I have a MCU list, I have a Marvel Comics movies list with all the movies, including X-Men, Spiderman, Fantastic Four, and all those other older movies from the 1940s and 1950s and every there. I have that. I have a list with the one-shots whenever I watch those. I have a list from the MCU including the one-shots. I have a lot of lists. So if you want to see me rank and just exploiting the MCU to its core, well, there you can have it. And this is one of those videos where I can exploit it even more. So let's just start with the worst project of 2021 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And for this, I am including the movies and the series. So, just so you know. And then number 9, and I have given number 9 for Black Widow. This movie is just so convoluted in every single way. There are great things in this, being Yelena Belova. She is like the most best single part of the MCU at this point. She is fucking phenomenal. I really love everything they do with her. She's great, but the rest, her father, David Harbour, he disappointed me. Taskmaster disappointed me. The story disappointed me. The villain disappointed me. Scarlett Johansson disappointed me. So yeah, I was very disappointed with this movie, and maybe I thought I was just not in the mood for it that day. So I went back to it again, and I saw that it still wasn't any better, and it still wasn't very good. And then I went back a third time, and I didn't even want to go a third time, but I had promised to go with a friend, and I completely forgot that, so I went a second time, but now I had to go a third time, and I was still disappointed. So this movie is just not good. I have given it 3.5 stars in the past, but maybe I will go to a low 3 stars, because this movie, well, it came out 5 years too late, and you can really feel that. If this movie came out in 2016, changed up the post-credit scene, you would have a really, really solid movie. I think this movie would have placed perfectly between Infinity War and between Civil War, but this Black Widow just falls flat because you know the chick is going to die. What does this movie even have for purpose then? Because we all know she's not going to die. Like, there's nothing in this movie that's actually quite suspenseful or at least entertaining. Because the only most entertaining thing is just Yelena Belova talking to everyone. She is great, and that's it. For our number 8, I have placed What If. This series is, let me just say, it's fun. But there you have it. It's just fun. Because this series, well, it's not a bigger part of the Marvel Universe up till now. Of course, we're gonna see some of these characters again in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. I am very much looking forward to that. But the series overall just didn't connect with me. I liked the first episode, I loved the second episode, but that was mainly because of Chadwick Boseman. I don't even remember what the third episode was. The fourth one was by far the best. It was like the most beautiful thing of the entire series with Doctor Strange. That was the best episode. The fifth one was the zombies, I think. That one disappointed me. The episode next up to that, was it Killmonger? It disappointed me. Episode next was Party Thor. It was fun, but didn't do much for me. And then the two endings, the connected ending, Ultron won and Watcher broke his oath, well, those were fun. But I also didn't think of them either anymore after I saw them, so this series just came and flew by, and I am not that excited for What If Season 2, and I heard that won't come out this year, it is postponed. And I'm not even mad about it. I'm just like, I don't know, do I really need that? But in Season 2, they're gonna incorporate episode Phase 4. So I'm pretty excited for that, to see what they're going to do with that. Maybe they make Black Widow a little better. I don't know. What If? It's just a fun series, but meh. Eternals is also quite fun, but obviously we all know the flaws this movie has. This movie is very long, the story is very big but feels very fucking empty. And that's a crazy thing that you don't normally see in movies. With a story this big, where you introduce 10 characters over the course of 7,000 years, you're gonna expect some entertaining things and some memorable things. But like the most memorable thing this movie has was just Icarus being so sad and so disappointed in his own life that he just straight up flew into the sun. That's legit everything. Oh yeah, and they put a Celestial to sleep, and they had a callback to Tiamat or to Arasham. He was nice. It was fun to see him and the grand scale of the Celestials. That was fucking phenomenal. And I loved how this movie looked. The CGI was very great. The colors were a bit grayish, but in fact, that's what the MCU has usually done up until the third phase. So yeah, it was fun, and it was nice, and it was fun to see those characters again, but I didn't even care for half of these characters. So yeah, there's just something with Eternals that just didn't stick with me. It is a fine movie, it really is. I give it a 7 out of 10. But it just doesn't stick with me. And now we're already in the part of the MCU where I think everything is actually quite great. And let's start with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This one was crazy good, I thought. I know this is one of the most hated series within Marvel from the past year, but I actually quite like it. I have actually bought the Captain America shield from the Winter Soldier. I have actually done it. So yeah, I like this series, and this is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier shield. You can see it because of those lines, and because of those lines in the star. So this is the actual shield. I have actually bought this because I'm a fan of this series. But what I also have with the series is that it's the most generic one of them, because it deals with racism and it deals with other crucial parts of our lives. But did we really need it in the MCU? I don't know. John Walker is a fan favorite for me, not because he was like more of a villain than the actual villains were, and that's why the series is in this place, because the villains were a bit disappointing. But John Walker, he was up there. I really liked him, and I really liked for what they were doing. The end of episode 4 and the beginning fight of episode 5 are one of the most favorite things I have in the MCU. Just to see all the blood on the shields, that was terrifying, because this is a symbol of hope, and they didn't give me that in that moment, and that was ballsy, and I liked what they're doing with that. The suit, I very much like for Falcon / Winter Captain America in the end. So yeah, this series, it has its flaws, but I very much liked it. Then we got Hawkeye, and this series was fucking perfect. And don't get me wrong, it is still in 5th place. But it's still, wow, this is wowing me, this one. And that's because of, it's just so generic, it's just so down to earth. And obviously, you're not gonna get a gigantic high score for that, but it's not that I mind it, because this one feels exactly like I wanted it to feel. It was down to earth, there weren't some great CGI fights in it, it was still very real, and the villains, they were still disappointing, except for Yelena Belova and except for the Kingpin, but the Kingpin was a little bit weird to see him in that view, but it was still fun, and I had so much fun with the series. It was exactly what I wanted it to be, just a down-to-earth story about Hawkeye. The only thing that this series has is that it's not about Hawkeye, it's about Kate Bishop, who is also Hawkeye. In 4th place, we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I have seen this movie twice now, once in theaters and once at my home. And I must say, this story really holds up. It's a great introduction to a new hero. I still feel that the ending and the entire third act was maybe a little bit too big for a first movie. It could have been better in a second movie, and this one just a little bit more down to earth. That would have been fine. But it was still very great, and I still very much liked it, and the humor was perfect. I didn't hate Aquafina in this, and that's something because I usually hate her guts. So yeah, this movie, it had some great things in it. It was a really fun movie, and I actually quite liked it. Upon rewatch, I liked it a little bit less, but it was still very much up there, and this actually is a great movie. In third place, we got the start of it all. We got WandaVision. This one blew my mind. The first 2 episodes were really interesting, but also a little bit boring, and up from there, it got better and better and better and better and better. It was still, in every episode, we had like a huge reveal, being the Quicksilver from the Fox universe. That was crazy. The reveal of Agatha Harkness with Agatha all along. I still sing that song. This movie had some crazy good things, but also the flaws being obviously Ralph Boner. What the fuck was that? Obviously, the end was maybe a little bit too MCU-ish because of considering the rest of the series, because the rest was so interesting and so new, and then they had to throw in the 9 episodes with just an MCU generic end fight. It was still a good fight, but I wanted more from it. And yeah, so this series is quite great. It had some crazy things in it. The storytelling was awesome. It was just the ending and Ralph Boner that really disappointed me. Going to Loki, one of my least anticipated series from 2021, because I thought, what do they still have to tell for Loki? But then I saw the trailer, and then I saw the series itself, and it was fucking great. I really, really loved everything they did with this series, because Loki is one of the best characters ever, and I am on the side of I thought it was weird to put a romantic relationship with himself in this. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's very fucking logical that Loki would do something like that. Doesn't mean it's not weird. And I think that's exactly what this series wanted to tell us, that shit was weird. But they put this weird romantic tension in them that made it feel like they weren't trying to make him fuck the same guy but in another gender. So yeah, that was crazy. But the story and the opening of the multiverse and Kang the Conqueror being he who remains, and everyone else, and just the guessing from the fans and the guessing from Eric Voss and everyone guessing what this could be and what this could turn out into. And every crazy cliffhanger from episode 1 up to episode 6, and in episode 1 when he gets to see his entire life laid out for him. This series had such an interesting way of telling things, and just it's such an interesting way to give Loki something that he never thought he would have, and give him the feeling of love and the feeling of purpose. That was great, because his glorious purpose, it was never to rule a kingdom. It was to save the multiverse, and now we're gonna see it, and that's why I love this series so much. And I have talked about this movie a lot, but in Spider-Man No Way Home, I am going to watch it for the 4th time in a minute, so wish me luck, wish me have fun. Yeah, this is great, and the promotional arts aren't there, but I still won't say who's in this movie, but let's just say the 3rd act of this, I cried for some characters that returns. It's enough hints, you know who it is. So yeah, this movie, it made me cry just from joy, and it was great, and it was awesome, and I loved it very much, and it was the best thing I have seen all year, and I really needed this movie in the pandemic era just to really get something to get my heart out, and it was this. I have been a fan of Spider-Man since 2004 or since 2005, when I was actually old enough to understand the first Spider-Man from 2002. So Spider-Man has been with me my entire life, and my entire life has now been placed into a movie, so I can actually say goodbye to some of these characters and thank them as a 22-year-old man for what they did for me in my youth. So yeah, this movie has a lot for me that I just never saw coming, and that's what made this movie made me cry, and that's why this movie's perfect. It's still just a very good movie, but bringing those characters back made it even better. And that's why I fucking love this movie, and that's why this movie is my favorite one of 2021. Did you like this ranking? Let me know in the comments down below. What do you see me rank more? Other franchises, maybe DC, maybe other franchises like the Scream movies or Guillermo del Toro movies because he made a new one. I can do that if you want that. Just show me some top 10 ideas and I will do them. I wanted to make an MCU 2022 anticipation list, but I am not sure what's still coming out because there were 11 projects originally, and then there were 9, and then there were 7, and then there were 9 and 11 and 12 and 40. So yeah, I don't know how much they're actually gonna be there, so I'm still waiting a little bit to release that video. But for now, that's it. And thank you for watching, and thank you for liking, thank you for commenting. Please comment your top 9 from the MCU 2021 in the comments. I'm very much excited. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.